Praise God for another day. Welcome to Charis Global Mission Morning Mist. John chapter 5 verse 6. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew he had already been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to get well?" Jesus asked a man a question that appears to have an obvious answer. He came upon a man who had been lame for 38 years and was sitting beside a pool of healing. Jesus asked him if he wanted to be healed. Why would Jesus ask such an obvious question? Perhaps the answer was not so clear. Bartimaeus was blind, yet when he cried out to Jesus to have mercy on him, Jesus asked what he wanted him to do. We read this in Mark chapter 10 verse 51. Mark chapter 10 verse 51. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. "Teacher," the blind man answered, "I want to see again." It would have seemed apparent that the foremost concern of a blind person would be to receive sight. There were times, however, when Jesus considered it important for people to verbalize their need and specifically ask Him to heal them. Just because we are spiritually sick or just because we are near a place of healing, it does not necessarily mean we want to be made well. We may attend church regularly but choose to remain sinful. Our generation have taken many of the activities that the Bible identifies as sin and has labeled them as addictions or character flaws or the result of an abusive upbringing. We act as if having an addiction is sufficient excuse for disobeying God's commands. As Christians, we are no longer helpless victims of our sin. There is no sinful habit or past hurt that is beyond the healing touch of our God. Have you gone year after year without receiving spiritual healing? God is capable of freeing you, but you may have become comfortable in your sin. You may not want to be healed. If you really want to receive spiritual health, God can give it to you today. He wants you to ask Him. I would like to share with you a personal experience of mine and the way I received spiritual healing. Looking at myself for the past 15 years, I would question myself and point out at myself saying, "You have wasted lots of your time, money, effort by trying to be good and trying to do good. You pleased people and did things so that you don't hurt them." This was mainly because of what I was taught in my childhood. Just a reminder how upbringing is important for spiritual growth as well. I've been taught about the do's and don'ts from my parents, spiritual parents, etc. And I had this in mind and did the things out of my way and pushed my family to do the same. Many times on the inside, I was warned that what I was doing is not being a Christian but being moral. But fear pulled me back. Fear of hurting others, fear of losing friends, fear of what people will think of me, or fear of what people will talk about me. But I had to make a decision, and guess what? It hurt. My family and myself went through a mental roller coaster last year. It hurt me more to see my family in pain, especially my husband. I went back to God, and there were days of talking nothing to God, but just telling Him that I know that He has everything in control and He has a plan. The people whom I respected, loved, thought they were our friends were nowhere to be found. I am greatly appreciative to those friends whom we have today that were there to push us and pull us while we were sinking. I'm also very thankful to my church family and the friendship group. We never told them up to date what we were going through in our personal lives, but every week the messages from the church and the friendship group were like God speaking straight into our hearts. I accepted the fact that the wound and scars formed over the last 15 years would take time to heal as well. I had to say no to certain things like my contacts, my friends, social media, and I had to focus on what I do. He is healing us as a family, and to tell you the truth, this lockdown has been a blessing in disguise. You might think I am a bit loud today with my personal journey. Yes, and that is because I am not alone. There are many who go through similar or different situations. It is like a comeback and saying yes to Jesus and no to the world, because there is a big difference between moral and Christian. You might ask me, is this really possible? Or is this really true? The answer is, it is possible. As we read in Luke chapter 1, verse 37, "For nothing will be impossible with God." The angel Gabriel told Mary that God was planning to do something humanly impossible. All human logic would agree that a virgin cannot give birth to a child. It was impossible. Yet this is exactly what was to happen. When God speaks of doing the impossible, it is no longer absurd. When was the last time God did the impossible in your life? He has done the impossible in my life. When was the last time God spoke to you about what He wanted to do and you were scared to death by its magnitude? God still does the impossible. Too often, we acknowledge our belief that God can do whatever He wants. Then we add a safety clause, "But I just don't think God will do it with me." We become practical atheists, believing that God can perform miracles but never expecting a miracle in our own lives. God wanted to bring salvation to all the humanity. It is critical that Mary not only believed God could perform a miracle, but also adjust her life to the awesome work He planned to do through her. The difference between a Christian and a moral person is the divine. The difference between church and a social club is the miraculous. Some can duplicate the morality of a Christian, but no one can reproduce the miraculous that should be part of the Christian experience. Do you believe that nothing is impossible for God? If you are a person like me and you really need a spiritual healing, ask and He will give it to you, and believe that nothing will be impossible with God. Have a good day. Thank you.